I'm Frank Garza, and welcome to Here and Abroad, a podcast that follows the U.S. men's national team and their player pool across Europe, MLS, or wherever else they play their club football. On today's show, we're back with 5 USMNT questions that have been on my mind this week. We'll dig into standout and disappointing performances from the weekend, Cavan Sullivan's role in Philly, bubble players we're keeping an eye on before the March 26th World Cup roster announcement, and what we'll be watching this week. To help me do that, I've invited Chuck Booth to join the show. Chuck is a soccer writer at CBS Sports. So Chuck, let's start with player performances over the past week. Who's someone that stood out to you?
So with the weekend, it was actually just a very good weekend for USMNT players. And so it's tough for me to just pick one. I think if I had to be limited to one, it's probably Alex Freeman, just because of actually starting for Villarreal, putting in a pretty strong performance. And hopefully it's one that'll lead to more starts, because he is a player who needed some time to ease into the squad. And now it seems like he's done what he needs to start getting serious minutes with the club. But also with Florian Balogun and Diego Luna also scoring, those were other noteworthy performances too.
Yeah, there were a lot of them. I'm super pumped about Freeman because he's a player I'm really high on. You know, the only downside was that lack of minutes he was getting at Villarreal, but now he has 2 starts in a row. We'll see what happens next week, because the guy who normally starts over him, I think, I forget his first name and last name, Mourinho. He's an Uruguayan international. I saw he was back on the bench last week, so I don't know, has Freeman played well enough to take over the spot? Or are they going to plug this guy back in? I'll be really interested to see, but nonetheless, he's shown the club, look, I can go 90 minutes and have a great performance. And I think even if it doesn't help him, win the spot these next couple of matches this season, I mean, it sets him up firmly for, next season as well.
Yeah, because at this point, that's all you can ask for. We knew when Alex Freeman moved to Villarreal, it was going to be tough for him to immediately take the starting role. So even if this doesn't lead to it, you would hope that, there's enough confidence that he's showing for coaches to want to give him more minutes when they can.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because he's a guy, I see him as a starter for this U.S. men's national team. I mean, that's how important I think he's become. And so, getting him going is a good thing. I had noted Diego Luna as well. He's a guy that I forget if you had him in or out of your roster last time we talked, but he's kind of this bubble guy that I felt like it wasn't a given he was going to make the roster. He's going to have to play his way into it. And since he's come back from injury, he's been playing really well, not just the goals, but he looks really good on the field. I think he's firmly kind of trending towards getting that roster spot. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you look at Diego Luna compared to everyone else in his position, it's hard to say that he's not the best performing USMNT attacking midfielder for their club right now. So even if you're just going off of that, while I know he was disappointed for missing the March international break, there's no way that you could make a roster right now and not have him on it. Yeah.
The other guy I think we have to mention is Serginho Dest from this weekend. So he, after injury, came back, made an appearance for PSV. He came on in the 60th minute, went the full rest of the game after that. So good to see him get 30 minutes. He looked good, looked healthy. And I'm super pumped we got him back, and hopefully he can I think PSV has 2 more matches left. Hopefully he can just continue to ramp up a little bit so that he can then come into the, World Cup camp ahead of those 2 friendlies ready to play.
And Ricardo Pepi also scored in that match.
And Ricardo Pepi also scored, man. I think it was wasn't it first minute or something like that?
Yeah, it was with at least within 2 minutes, I think, in clock time. So definitely still while these games don't actually matter for PSV, still seeing the performances that you want to see.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So a lot of good standout performances from a positive perspective. Who's somebody that disappointed you or you think did not have such a good week?
Unfortunately, for a while, the answer to this question is just going to be one man, and it's Christian Pulisic. Like
Yeah.
until this streak ends, he is just number one there. And like I know the longer you go without a goal, the harder it does sometimes become to score because like you just don't feel like you can score and you're pushing to do things. But like this is the longest drought of his career and it's not particularly close.
Yeah. It is funny because this is a common way I start the show, by asking who had a good performance the past week, who had disappointing performance of the past week, and it does seem for the last 4 or 5 weeks, whether it's you or whether it's another guest, we're always talking about Christian Pulisic in this segment,
Because
which is disappointing.
yeah, I mean this team needs Christian Pulisic to score just as much as he needs to score for himself.
Yeah, yeah. I just wonder. And I kind of talked about this last week, just how unhappy and like maybe how uncomfortable he is just within the like team situation, the coaching situation. I mean, Allegri isn't known for playing, beautiful attacking football. There's been some tension with Leao this season. He's playing in this two striker system, which clearly doesn't suit him. So I have a feeling he's doing his best to be a good team player, through all this, but he's not probably the happiest guy in camp. I mean,
Yeah, which like I get it. Like stuff like that does happen, but also it's not like this is his first run around the block. Like he's been at big clubs, he's been in and out of the lineup, he's dealt with plenty of different managers during his career. So like you understand that at a certain point this is soccer and still like it's not even just the number of goals, it's just how long it's been.
yeah. Give me what's your feel? Do you think how strong of a possibility do you think it is that he moves this summer? Because he's always linked to someone. I saw Man United in the last couple of weeks. I think next season is the last season he's under contract
Yeah.
with Milan. They've been talking about extending it, signing a new deal. They never have. I mean,
I mean, I
is it?
think it's a it's a weird one because especially he's a guy that you would think if he does have a strong World Cup, immediately teams will start calling Milan. Like I don't know how high interest is going to be like based on this current season, but it does feel like we're reaching the end of the Milan tenure. Especially since like not only this summer but like next January he could just sign a pre-contract and leave on a free.
Yeah. Yeah. I've thought it was a low probability for the longest time because he seemed so happy, at
Yeah,
Milan.
he
But now I'm more in the 50-50
yeah, it
range
went
that it could
it
happen.
is yeah, it's quite a shift because he went from like basically being a club hero to this.
Yeah. Yeah. The first half of the season went so well. And now it just seems to be not going well, at all. So that's going to be something we're going to have to keep monitoring. Hopefully he can break out of the slump, the next couple of weeks. I mean, Milan still has plenty to play for. They're trying to secure their Champions League spot for next season. And so, yeah, we'll definitely be keeping an eye on Pulisic. The other guy I'll mention, this is another guy that comes up a lot in this segment. If it's not Pulisic, it's Gio Reyna. Gladbach played Dortmund last week, so I'm like, if they're ever going to throw the guy a bone to start or something like that, or get more minutes, this would be the match to do it. I think he came on in the 70th minute, so he did get about 20 minutes in him, but again, he didn't do anything. I mean, Gladbach have 2 matches left. This is a guy that's 0 goals, 0 assists this season, hardly playing. I mean, this guy's running out of time. And I'm kind of like, I don't see how he makes the roster. I've been saying that. I would say when I go and look at the YouTube comments after publishing every episode, that's always the most talked about thing is people telling me how wrong I am and how Gio's going to be in
Yeah,
there. I mean, where are you standing? I think you had
I
him in, but are you?
I still believe he's gonna make it.
Yeah,
I don't believe he should make it. And that's the difference there because when you're doing these roster projections, you have to think about what Pochettino is going to do. And it does feel like Pochettino's going to take Reina because even when he's been calling him into camp, it like club performance hasn't mattered because Gio Reyna hasn't done anything of note for his club in 2.5 years.
yeah,
And he still is making USMNT squads. When you talk to players, the players clearly like playing with Gio Reyna. And so as long as Pochettino can find a way to balance that with like the obvious disappointment's going to come with whoever is left out for Reyna to make it into the squad, like that's his call as a manager. But it's hard for me to necessarily like call him out as a disappointment for club at this point, just because it's been so long that this specific scenario has been going on for Gio Reyna for club that it's hard to expect more.
okay. You're a Philly guy, and so I've been wanting to get your input on Cavan Sullivan. You know, one of the biggest storylines of this entire MLS season is all the teenagers, the young players that have kind of made their mark. I'm thinking about the New York Red Bulls. I'm thinking of Gozo with RSL. But the guy, the youngest guy, the big, the most famous teenager that we, kind of maybe expected to be getting all the minutes and scoring these goals, hadn't been a part of that for much of the season. But now he started the last two matches, so he's playing more. I mean, talk to me about how are you feeling about Cavan Sullivan and his performance so far this season and his role with the team?
I mean, it's unfortunate, but he's arguably been the best Union attacker this season. Not that that's saying much because it's a very low bar among what attackers are actually giving you with this team right now. But like, he is looking to like play passes forward and be dynamic when he gets the ball. It's just unfortunately none of the forwards are necessarily doing anything with the passes that they get from him. But I mean, teenagers are kind of the only thing keeping the Union relevant right now because when you look at every game, Cavan Sullivan and Frankie Westfield are essentially the two players playing the hardest and trying to make things happen in attack.
Yeah. Does it? I mean, are we seeing a shift? I mean, him getting the start in the last two matches. Do you think that's going to continue?
I hope so. Of course, you don't want to push him too hard, and that's the balance with this. Just because since I forget exactly what his number of minutes was last year, but like you don't want to just like go from like under 500 to like 1500 MLS minutes like immediately, especially when you're someone who's still growing like he is too. So I get that there's careful management that needs to be done, and like hopefully, especially with the World Cup break, like you don't have to worry about that as much as you would need to in a normal MLS season. But it's clear that especially until his brother gets back to playing for the team and Quinn Sullivan, the Union need him because there's just no creators on this team.
Yeah. Will Quinn take his spot? I mean, do they essentially play the same position?
Yeah. So in the current Union formation with that like right midfielder slash almost winger, since the Union don't particularly play with wingers, they would both be in the same position for the Union, although they can play together, but that's where you almost need to play like two attacking midfielders or let Quinn just be more of a box-to-box midfielder, which he can do, but he was at his best for the Union, being able to drive forward and then just decide what he wants to do with the ball when it comes to shooting or setting up an attacker.
Okay. Okay, well, I mean, I watched a little bit of Phillies game over the weekend. I enjoy him. I always like watching him. He's dynamic when he gets the ball. He's dynamic with his runs, and he looks like he can create some havoc. And so, hoping he continues to get some playing time as the season moves on. Okay, Chuck, we're only about 3 weeks away from hearing Mauricio Pochettino's final World Cup roster. If you can believe that. And so I'm thinking about all of these bubble players out there who have 3 weeks to kind of make their move. Who's a bubble player that you're watching closely right now?
Well, I think we mentioned the biggest one just because of Diego Luna. And even though I don't know if I would necessarily consider him a bubble player anymore, but he like his games right now are just appointment viewing when you take into account both his performances and Real Salt Lake just being a much better than expected team so far this season.
Yeah. Do you think if it came down between Luna and Reyna, Pochettino would, which route do you think Pochettino would go? I mean, I know you would, I mean, it sounds like you would go Luna. I
Yeah,
would go Luna, but what do you think
I
Poch would do?
I hope at least like considering even relationships with the squad, that Pochettino would still go Luna there because
Yeah.
he does like Diego Luna. Like I don't think there's a question about that. But yeah, like that's definitely when it becomes a tough one. And of course, the answer should be Diego Luna, and I think it still would be. But the fact that we can't just like emphatically say it would be is strange.
Yeah. Because I've been kind of maintaining between Diego Luna, Brennan Aronson, Gio Reyna, and Alex Zendejas. Those four players. I think only two of those will make it. And I'd take all three of them over Gio Reyna.
Yeah, and Brennan Aronson is someone who I had in who may definitely be closer to being out right now.
Yeah. Yeah, he's right there. But that's that's the decisions Poch is going to have to make. I mean, I really do think those four players that I named, certainly not all four of them are going to get in, but I think really only two of them. And so it's yeah, we're going to see. I'm watching all four of those guys. I don't know if any of them can change Poch's mind at this point, but maybe Zendejas, if he goes on just a scoring streak these next couple of weeks, but we'll
Yeah,
see.
I mean, Club America definitely needs anything that they can get from Zendejas, considering how just this Liga MX season has been going and them barely squeaking into the playoffs. Like, it's very, very strange there right now.
Yeah. So for me, some of the bubble players I'm thinking about center back still, and it depends on how many you bring in. I'm going to say Poch is going to bring in around five, and I think Chris Richards and Tim Ream are solidly in, even though Tim Ream
Yeah.
he missed last week due to
So
injury.
here's my thing with center
Okay,
back.
okay.
With Cameron Carter Vickers not being healthy, unless Noah Kai Banks declares for the U.S., you don't have more than five center backs. Like they just don't exist.
Well,
Um,
okay. Let's count them. Let's count them. You got Chris Richards, Tim Marie, Mark McKenzie, Miles Robinson, Austin Trusty. That's five right there. I throw Joe Scally in there because I just don't
see,
think I just don't
yeah,
think Poch will use him as a outside back.
yeah. I'm just not. Yeah, I'm not counting Joe Scally as a center back because like five. I'm thinking that if you need to go to a six center back, that is probably Tanner Tussman. And Joe Scally is another person where when you're already probably taking five fullbacks, it's hard to see like a six go in when his center back performances haven't necessarily screamed someone who's going to break out being a center back at the World Cup either.
Yeah. Well, here's how I think it's going to go down for Joe Scally. I think if Mauricio Pochettino brings 4 true center backs only, then Joe Scally's chances go up quite a bit because he could be a hybrid. He can give you multiple positions. He could play center back. But if he brings 5 true center backs, I don't see Joe Scally making it in because I don't think he can make it in as an outside back, on his own.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I just it's always strange because if you had to cut one center back, it's probably Miles Robinson. But with how Pochettino has used Miles Robinson as just consistently being his guy to close out games when he needs that extra defender, it's hard to say that Miles Robinson won't make it.
Yeah. Miles Robinson is the interesting one for me because he's injured as well. He hasn't played since April 18th due to some kind of leg injury, and so the way the team talks about it, it seems like he's just always one more week from coming back. But I wonder if this continues, he misses another game next week, then after that another one. Does he all of a sudden get left out of the conversation? Because you're right, he has gotten a lot of minutes under Pochettino. He's probably got the most minutes out, besides Chris Richards and Tim Ream. He's probably the center back that's gotten the most minutes, with Pochettino. But I just wonder how much this nagging injury could hurt his chances with that center back kind of depth chart. So I don't know. It's like a tie between everybody on the depth chart, except for Chris Richards.
Yeah, no, this is just where you just wish more players existed.
Yeah.
And that's what makes center back just so hard to know what to do with. Like, again, we shouldn't be waiting on a 19-year-old to make their decision on their national team future to know what the U.S. men's national team center back depth chart is going to look like.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, well, we'll keep watching the center backs, but I think that's another tough decision Poch has in front of him. The number that he brings, and then who gets the final spot, and then what does he do with Joe Scally? Okay, last thing, Chuck. Looking ahead to this weekend, what's something you're going to be watching for regarding this USMNT player pool?
Yeah, that one's actually the tough one because I feel like I get, just with work and everything, I get so caught up in what's happening even in the next 2 days that it's hard to think about what's necessarily happening over the weekend. But
you could talk about the next 2 days as well, this week or the weekend.
But I mean, I think the big one is just gonna be hoping that Milan being at home against Atalanta, who don't have as much to play for. Like they still want to make Champions League, but where they are in the table, it's gonna be a lot tougher. Like, and I know everything feels like if not now, then when for Pulisic, but just like, will this please end?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I mean, you have three games left in the season for it to actually come to an end. Atalanta away to Genoa and at home to Cagliari. Like,
okay.
It has to.
Yeah, you would think so. Yeah, and then when Pulisic and Musa meet on the field after the match, shake hands, Musa's going to probably walk up to him and say, "Remember when you told me it wouldn't be a big deal to skip the Gold Cup? Man, that was some bad advice."
Well, it's unfortunate that there's almost no chance that they meet on the field during the game.
That's true. Very little chance of that.
Because, again, like you thought that USMNT midfield was set for years with Musa, Adams, and McKennie, and here we are.
Yeah, here we are. Yeah, I think for me, the number one thing I'm gonna be watching for is Aiden Morris and Middlesbrough playing in the English Championship promotion playoffs. They play on Saturday, first leg against Southampton. Aiden Morris has just been so consistent for Middlesbrough this season. 90 minutes every single week, solid performance, and now he's playing on the big stage of the promotion playoffs and. He's a guy I have in my roster, but again, he's in a very crowded position in that central midfield position. And I think it's going to be tight for him. Certainly wouldn't hurt his case, if he can advance in this first stage of the promotion playoffs, make it to Wembley to play, in the actual, final match. That's something that maybe could catapult him, over the finish line.
Yeah, I currently don't have him in, because it feels like it's between like him and Tanner Tussman for a spot. And I think Tanner Tussman being able to play center back potentially gives him that leg up there. But I mean, there's still plenty of time, especially given the magnitude of games that Morris is going to be playing, and even the fact that Middlesbrough have never won at Wembley. So if he's able to be a part of that, like that is huge because it's very hard in English soccer to break some of those major narratives. And even though Middlesbrough spent time in the Premier League, it was only done via automatic promotion and not actually going through the promotion playoffs. So that would be like a big World Cup-esque moment where if you see him performing under it, that is a time that does have to go into consideration, especially since like while Tyler Adams is currently playing right now, you still never know when there might be a situation that he's not.
Yeah. It's one of the biggest games you can play in, if you make it to Wembley and you're in that final promotion playoff match. All right, Chuck. Well, I will make sure and put links in the show notes to your Blue Sky account, which is at Chuck Yeah, and also to your work at CBS Sports. Thank you so much for coming back on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks to everyone for listening to Here and Abroad. If you enjoyed the episode, please do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, or that follow button if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or somewhere else. Thank you so much. I'm Frank Garza. You can follow me on X or Blue Sky at Frank Garza 007, and I'll be back next week with a new episode.